Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, bipartisanship is alive and well in the Capitol, and Pennsylvania taxpayers should be afraid, very afraid. Republicans bragged in presenting the general appropriations bill that it increased spending, particularly for education. Democrats argued simply that those increases should be larger. And both parties left unmentioned 15 years of unpaid pension bills, which have accumulated to over $55 billion of unconstitutional debt. Let me be blunt, Mr. Speaker. If executives in a corporation deliberately diverted money from their employees' pension fund to other purposes, they would be arrested and sent to jail, and rightly so. We in the General Assembly have been doing exactly that for more than a dozen years, and Senate Bill 1 will do little to change that behavior. Senate Bill 1 is silent on the real pension problem. According to the Pew Foundation, we are a state that is 49th in funding its pensions. Just the interest on the pension debt is nearly $4 billion a year and growing. That's the equivalent of full salary and benefits for over 50,000 teachers. As measured by economists, including those at the credit rating agencies who have downgraded the Commonwealth's credit 6 consecutive times in the past 2 years, the pension debt is over $120 billion. That's nearly $10,000 for every man, woman, and child in the state. Think of that. A family of 4 who leaves the state immediately receives $40,000 of debt forgiveness, while a family of 4 who thinks about moving into Pennsylvania would get hit with a $40,000 debt for a service they never received. Which way do you think the migration is going to go? The pension debt is making young people Pennsylvania's #1 export. What does Senate Bill 1 do to address 15 years of malfeasance regarding pension underfunding and the impending insolvency of CSRS and PSRS? It is 400 pages of complexities, contortions, and carve-outs, but it does not have even one sentence that addresses the real problem. Mr. Speaker, although pensions are a direct cost of government and ought to be paid for out of general funds, perhaps I can offer a suggestion on how to raise some new revenues. Let's pass a gaming law, establishing a betting pool on when the next downgrade of Pennsylvania's credit will take place, and a mega pool on when the assets of CSRS and PSRS will be fully depleted. And of course, the pool on the credit downgrades can be ongoing because we are certain to see that streak of infamy continue well into the future. And I think we should also change the state bird from the ruffed grouse to the ostrich, because regarding the consequences of pension debt, we have our collective head in the sand or someplace worse. There's an old ditty, Mr. Speaker. There's an old ditty that goes, "Don't tax you, don't tax me, tax that man behind the tree." Well, the man behind the tree is our children and children not yet born, as we pile up a gigantic growing debt on their shoulders for our own benefit. One thing you can say about Pennsylvania's government: it does not discriminate. It has robbed the taxpayers of the past, it is robbing the taxpayers of the present, and it has already robbed the taxpayers of the future with this dereliction of debt. Mr. Speaker, all of us in state government, governors past and present, representatives and senators, Republicans and Democrats, all of us have failed as fiduciaries to the citizens of Pennsylvania and are complicit in divesting the future of this Commonwealth. Senate Bill 1 accomplishes little except to distract and deflect this failure. Mr. Speaker, there is only one essential reform for pension plans like CSRS and PSRS that are massively underfunded, and that is simply more funding, much more, and sooner, not later. Unfortunately, Senate Bill 1 continues the de facto state policy of intergenerational theft through underfunding our pensions. Mr. Speaker, we will hear that Senate Bill 1 is historic, but the only history we're making is to continue a streak of more than a dozen years of missed pension payments and unconstitutional budgets that were not balanced. We should oppose Senate Bill 1 and institute true pension reform by focusing on the catastrophic problem of our unfunded liabilities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.